This is a battle in the Blood and Sand tournament. We have Alanen against Langobarden. It's the Schlacht von Kariskos. So let's see here. For the army of the Alans, 2 Sarmatian cataphracts on each flank, so a total of 4 Sarmatian cataphracts, 2 Noble Alani, so you have some of the most cost-effective shock cavalry in the game. You have the most cost-effective melee cavalry in the game. Then you have very cost-effective slingers, 4 in the center, 4 Germanic hurlers. You have Sarmatian warband, 4 decent high charge infantry units. Well, mid high charge, but high armor, and they just have a nice selection of stats, with also having some precursors. 1 Germanic archer, 2 elite Agathorsi on each flank, so very good shock infantry there. No bonus versus either infantry or cavalry on them, but they do have the very important headhunt ability, which allows them to stay in the fight after taking massive casualties. So they can be very annoying to deal with, even for cavalry, if the cavalry gets bogged down. So for the Langobards here, we have 4 Germanic hurlers in the center. We have Godin's Chosen and Godin's Men on each flank, backed up by a horse hewer. Then we have 1 Noble Germanic horse, and on each flank we have a total of 4 Germanic Lancers, 3 Godin's Men in the center, and Redoubtable Chieftain.
The enemy approaches.
So these slingers could cancel each other out. The Godin's Chosen against Elite Agathorsi. Usually the Elite Agathorsi would take that engagement, but that depends on... I mean, if the Godin's Chosen could go berserk, and then the Elite Agathorsi could use Headhunt to stay in the fight, so these units will sort of cancel each other out, at least in a one-on-one engagement. But the Alaman, the Langobard infantry, doesn't have any precursors, so that is a potential problem for them. They do, however, have the support of horse hewers. So if they're able to get in, if they're able to get into the cavalry blob, the Sarmatian cataphracts are going to die very, very quickly. This 1 Germanic archer will allow the Alans to do some damage from afar here against these Germanic lancers. Also, the Godin's Men and the Godin's Chosen are fairly vulnerable to missiles. They don't have the best armor, they don't have the best shields. Extremely vulnerable to cavalry charges, which essentially applies to all infantry in Attila. But when you have units without precursor ammunition, you run the risk of getting destroyed without being able to cause any damage to the charging cavalry. And here we have spaghetti Germanic hurlers up against loose formation Germanic hurlers. Let's see how they choose to engage here. Focusing might be a good idea, focusing 2 against 1 to kill 1 unit quickly, but it will also mean that some weird angles develop, and that unit, the group of units that focus, might run into some weird, might move into some weird angles. But here the Germanic hurlers of the Langobards are moving up, which means that these Germanic hurlers are going to get the first volleys off. That could be important. Moving away the cavalry here to not take any fire, which is a good idea. And getting the first volleys off in these skirmish engagements, very, very useful. So the player who moves into range without being able to get the first shot off is going to be at a disadvantage. So the Germanic hurlers here, the Germanic hurlers in Spaghetti are trading well with these Germanic hurlers in loose formation. Getting the first volley off was very important. So if these Germanic hurlers manage to, it looks like they're going to be able to they're focusing here, 2 against 1, which is it's a very good idea. Here we have the Noble Alani rushing in as the first cavalry unit, And these units blob each other up. The horse hewers come in. And the Noble Alani gets a fairly decent charge, ties down a lot of units, but it needs help very quickly since it has Godin's Chosen and horse hewers in the mix. These horse hewers are taking a lot of casualties, but the Noble Alani is dropping very, very quickly. The Elite Gotharsai might start changing that, but look at how much damage the Godin's Chosen took here. The Elite Gotharsai rush in, and that should kill off, if not all of these units, it should kill off a significant portion of them anyway. The Germanic hurlers pushing up could be very useful for stopping a few cavalry charges here. And yeah, the Elite Gotharsai are just cleaning house with all of these units. And this just deserves special mention, because in this case, the infantry support for the Langobards was much closer than the infantry support of the Alans. But what that allowed the Alans to do was to blob up several units with a single unit and then countercharge. So although the support happened quicker here, there were also more units engaged in a single blob than there were for the Alans, which allowed the Alans to bring in units in support, get charges, and you can see the result here. Noble Germanics, Germanic Lancers just running off the field. Godin's Chosen and pulling out here the Noble Alani and pulling out the cavalry. A decent job there, because now the Godin's men here are going to be able to get hit. The horse hewers are getting hit in the rear. Germanic Lancers getting smashed. The Godin's men are about to get charged here by Summation Warband, unless this Germanic Lancer gets there first. Takes quite a bit of damage, and it doesn't get the best of charges because of the hurlers. Summation Cataphracts moving up through the center here. They are in a great position to charge the Redoubtable Chieftain if they so choose, but the Germanic Lancers move into support. So now the Langobards ended up winning this engagement, but at quite a hefty cost. And in this case, the Germanic Lancers blobbed and made the Redoubtable Chieftain and the Germanic Lancers get hit by the Summation Cataphracts. So they weren't able to charge through the Redoubtable Chieftain in a dense formation. Just pouring in the Horseslayers and Godins here, and again blobbing so many units against this single unit. I mean, it's useful being able to save your general, but if there was any type of support here for the Alans, then this would just be a super dangerous position to be in for the Langobards. A few depleted units making it in to the enemy lines. And in this blob, it just seems like the Alans have more units in. Getting a good rear charge here with Summation Warband against these Godin's men and against the other Godin's men. These Gonads Chosen are going to get smashed by Elite Gotharsai. No contest when they're up 2 against 1. And just look at how long this Summation Cataphract has held out against all of these units, denying them the chance to support here. But the Alan Germanic Noble actually runs away from the battlefield at this point. So this could be a problem for the Alans, but they do have some high morale units left in the Elite Gotharsai, smashing into the Redoubtable Chieftain with the Summation Cataphracts. And even though he has 172 health and 68 armor, he's going to drop very quickly indeed. Impact damage is no joke in Attila. Noble Alani is still alive. No cavalry left on the field for the Alamans. For the Langobards. Noble Alani getting slowed down here by some slinger fire, but they are going to be able to make it into the Godin's men. There are Horseslayers here though, so pulling out as soon as possible is probably a good idea. Some Gonads men going berserker against the Summations. Over here as well, fighting up against Summations, going berserk. But the Redoubtable Chieftain is wavering.
A unit's ammunition is spent and it can no longer fire.
So once there's a cavalry unit free to charge into this blob, should be the end of it. Here we go. Noble Alani Cavalry. And a double charge against the enemy general here. The redoubtable chieftain is off the field. Well, he decided to go away and get the charge here, which is a good idea. The redoubtable chieftain is dead anyway. So the horse slayers trying to get in here, but good charge by the Sarmatian cataphracts into all of these units, really. So the redoubtable chieftain dies, and the rest of the Langobard army dies. So Silverwind wins with the Allans. We're going to see some more battles from these two players. HunnicWarrior defeated here, and he didn't do. I mean, the skirmish didn't start well for him here. You can see that by the kills of the Germanic hurlers, but he was able to use them fairly effectively in the late game, and these Godin's men and Godin's chosen did a lot of damage. But overall, the Sarmatian warbands, Elite Gatrasai, do fairly well. The Germanic archers did a great job in this battle, and then we have the Sarmatian shock cavalry, the Sarmatian cataphracts. They just do a better job than the Germanic lancers, and they're not that much more expensive. And of course, the Noble Alani does a better job than the Noble Germanic. So I'd say that the Allans have an advantage over the Langobards because they have better shock cavalry. They have better melee cavalry, but certainly Silverwind played well, and it was by no means a win by default because he was using the Allans against the Langobards, but the Allans have some significant advantages over the Langobards. Strength and honor.